Harrow Auto House, a luxury dealership known for its customer service and its manager's short temper. Lily Watson, the dealership manager, stood by the reception desk. At exactly 4:37 p.m., a black SUV pulled quietly into the VIP parking bay. No valet had been called. No appointment was on the books. The man who stepped out wore black, head to toe, and moved like someone in no rush, yet with purpose. Older, built solid, sunglasses hiding his eyes. The receptionist offered him a clipped "Can I help you?" without making full eye contact. The man simply nodded and began walking around the floor. Lily, watching from a distance, narrowed her eyes. Customers didn't wander in unannounced like that. Not unless they were wasting time or pretending to belong. Steven Seagal moved past a line of luxury sedans, touching none of them. He paused at a modest hybrid, tilted his head, and smiled faintly. Lily stormed over, irritated. The dealership didn't have time for strange old men on a Saturday evening. Her tone was clipped and cold. "Sir, we're closing soon." But Steven didn't flinch. He just looked around one more time, calm and unreadable, as if she were still deciding. Not on a car, but on people. "Before we continue, we'd love to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments below, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories." Lily's footsteps echoed sharply across the tile, her expression hardening with each stride. She didn't recognize the man in black, and that alone irritated her. The showroom was her stage, and she didn't like unexpected actors showing up without lines, especially not ones who ignored her. Without waiting for introductions, Lily gestured to the door with a tight-lipped smile. That didn't reach her eyes. The staff nearby went still. Most had learned to keep quiet when Lily's mood dipped, especially when she started asserting authority. Seagal turned, his expression unreadable. He didn't argue. He simply looked around the space one last time, as if mentally taking inventory. Lily, mistaking silence for submission, puffed her chest and muttered something about rules and appointments only. She thought she'd won. Two junior salespeople exchanged glances. Something about the man felt familiar, but they couldn't place it. The receptionist, now checking Google on her phone, paused mid-scroll. Her eyebrows lifted, but she said nothing. Steven walked toward the exit with the same calm he'd entered with. No reaction, no anger, just quiet evaluation. As the glass doors slid open, a faint smirk crossed his lips, as if he'd just watched someone lock themselves out of their own home that an hour later. As dusk settled, the dealership lights glowed like stage spotlights. The workday was ending. Lily prepared to lock up. Then, without announcement, a second black SUV pulled into the lot. This one newer, sleeker, and undeniably intentional. From the back seat, Seagal stepped out again, this time followed by two assistants in tailored suits, holding folders and sealed envelopes. Lily squinted from inside the glass, confusion beginning to replace arrogance. Staff froze mid-task. The man she had dismissed had returned, with company. The assistants walked past Lily without a word, placing sealed packets on each department. Desk, sales, HR, marketing, service. Each envelope contained the same letterhead: Seagal Equity Group, Notice of Acquisition. By the time Lily approached the man, her composure had cracked. But Steven simply stared through the glass at the showroom, hands behind his back. He didn't need to say anything. His presence had shifted the air. The man Lily had kicked out now owned everything around her. Whispers spread among the team like sparks. Did he just buy the dealership? Is that Steven Seagal? Was that a test? Steven glanced at Lily for a split second. Not with anger, with the kind of pity reserved for those who write their own downfall and still act surprised. The break room filled with quiet murmurs. Each employee stared at the paper in their hands. Official confirmation of new ownership, signed hours ago. No press release, no banners, just a quiet transaction and a statement that change was coming. Lily sat silently in her office, reading her copy. Her lips moved slightly as if trying to rewrite the words in real time. Downstairs, a young technician said aloud what everyone was thinking. We watched the new owner get kicked out like a stray. Marketing whispered about how close they'd come to posting a sarcastic tweet about the incident before they realized who they were mocking. A receptionist stared at a paused YouTube video of Seagal from an old interview, then looked back at the man now in the office next door. No threats were made. No apologies were asked for. But a quiet humility had spread through the hallways. One team leader wrote a note to herself. Always treat unknown guests like future bosses. Staff, who once followed Lily's sharp tone, began making eye contact again. Nods turned to handshakes. Conversations softened. A dealership run on ego was now adjusting to something quieter, but more powerful. Respect that a message came over the intercom. Lily, please report to the executive office. Her stomach dropped before she stood up. As she walked past the showroom, eyes followed, but no one spoke. The room was too heavy with quiet tension. Upstairs, Stephen sat at the head of the executive desk. No one flanked him. No lawyer. No assistant. Just presence. Lily stepped in, back straighter than usual, a half-smile frozen on her face, trying to make the moment lighter than it was. But Stephen didn't return the smile. He motioned toward the chair across from him, wordlessly inviting Lily to sit. The room felt colder than the air conditioner allowed, like truth had stepped in and refused to leave. Lily stammered through a half-hearted explanation, but Stephen didn't interrupt. He just listened, still, silent, and completely in control. Then came the only sentence Seagal offered that day. You don't recognize value unless it's wearing a name tag. That's not leadership. Lily's mouth opened, but no response came. The silence that followed was her answer. Outside, the dealership hummed forward, already adapting. But upstairs, a new era had quietly begun, with fewer words and deeper consequences. The silence between Lily and Stephen stretched long enough to make the clock's ticking feel like thunder. Then, Stephen reached into his jacket. He placed a sealed envelope on the desk, thicker than the others. The name, Lily Watson, was printed neatly on the front. Lily hesitated before picking it up. Her fingers trembled slightly as she slid it open, revealing a single page. No threats, no dismissal. It was an offer, a chance to stay, with a caveat: humility, retraining, and relinquishing full control to a leadership board. Lily stared at it for a long time, her ego shifting under the weight of the page. She had expected punishment, not grace. Stephen finally spoke, his voice quiet and even. Leadership isn't about control. It's about character. The room settled into stillness again. Lily looked down, then back up. Her walls weren't cracking. They were finally coming down. For the first time in a long while, she nodded. Not to assert, but to listen. Outside, the sky dimmed into twilight, shadows softening the harshness of earlier hours. Change had not been forced. It had been offered, like a key to a locked door. Lily hadn't realized she was standing behind. Word spread quickly. The new owner would address the full team. No one knew what to expect. Some feared layoffs. Others hoped for answers. Chairs were set up in a wide circle. No stage. No podium. Just eye-level connection. Stephen didn't believe in hierarchies when trust was at stake. He began not with instructions, but with gratitude. For their time, their energy, and for how they treated strangers. A few staff shifted uncomfortably. Then came a quiet reminder. How we treat someone when we think they're nobody reveals everything. Eyes lowered. Some nodded. Others bit their lips, remembering that quiet afternoon when they'd looked through him instead of at him. Stephen continued, laying out new visions: employee equity, mental health days, community involvement. Surprising ideas. Revolutionary, even. The room stayed silent, but the energy shifted from defense to hope. Lily stood in the back, watching. She wasn't the leader today, but she was learning what that really meant. Stephen ended with a smile, not forced, but earned. then thanked everyone again, individually, by name. When the room emptied, no one rushed out. They stayed a little longer, not out of obligation, but out of curiosity for what was now possible. Monday came with an unusual warmth, not from the weather, but from the way people greeted each other. The receptionist, who had once barely looked up, now greeted guests with real eye contact. Even small things felt different. Lily stood near the service bay, holding the door open for a mechanic who once feared her morning meetings. Change hadn't arrived with a press release. It had grown quietly, like dawn through a window, barely noticeable until everything was light. Stephen didn't interfere. He showed up, walked the floors, asked staff how their weekends went, and listened more than he spoke. The employees began calling him Mr. Seagal less and Sir more, but with respect, not fear. A junior salesperson helped an elderly couple who'd been ignored the week before. This time, they were offered tea and patience. Someone framed the old ownership plaque and placed it in the break room, next to a small sticky note. Never again. People stayed 5 minutes longer after their shifts. Not because they had to, but because they wanted to. The dealership hadn't just gained an owner. It had found something rarer: culture. Midweek, Stephen received a call from a major investor. They'd heard rumors of the transition, some skeptical, some curious. He listened patiently as the voice on the other end asked if he really thought grace could replace discipline in a high-profit environment. Stephen replied with stories about turnover reduction, about staff who stayed past closing time, about a former manager who now trained the new hires. He didn't cite quarterly projections. He cited humans. And something most reports miss: dignity. The voice paused, then said only 3 words: "We'll be watching." Not a threat, just the corporate version of hope. Stephen smiled faintly, ending the call. Not every battle needed fighting. Some just needed quiet proof. Downstairs, Lily led a staff huddle. The woman who once barked orders now asked questions. Someone mentioned a woman returning to buy the car she had been rushed through before. She said, "It just feels different here now." That was all Stephen needed to hear. That's why he bought the place. Not for cars, but for stories. And this one was just getting good. On Friday, a woman walked in carrying a small paper bag. She asked to speak with the owner. No appointment. Stephen met her at the door himself. Her eyes softened the moment she saw him. "You don't remember me," she said gently. "But years ago, you helped me when my car broke down outside LA." She had been a waitress then. He had been filming nearby. He didn't say much, just paid for her tow and left quietly. Today, she brought him homemade cookies. Not because she had to, because she never forgot. Staff watched from a distance, eyes wide, not at the gift, but at the humility in how Stephen received it. Lily, watching too, finally understood something she hadn't before. Kindness wasn't just branding. It was the whole business model. As the woman left, Stephen handed her a keychain with the dealership logo and his initials. "If you ever need help again," he said softly. That gesture, small, unseen by most, echoed louder than any press conference. In that moment, everyone watching realized this dealership didn't sell cars. It sold second chances. Monday morning felt like a fresh start. Employees greeted each other with genuine smiles instead of weary nods. The weight of tension had eased. The sales team gathered by the coffee machine, sharing stories of weekend hikes, family dinners, and small victories outside the dealership walls. Even the grumpy mechanic, who rarely spoke, laughed softly when a junior technician made a clumsy joke about a stubborn engine. The sense of camaraderie wasn't forced, it was real. Built slowly, like roots underground before the first spring bloom. Lily, walking among them, no longer barked orders. Instead, she asked about their weekend plans, genuinely interested in the answers. The staff noticed the change, and for the first time, felt like they mattered beyond their job titles. Stephen's presence was subtle but undeniable, a steady pulse of respect that encouraged quiet growth rather than loud command. Small acts multiplied, doors held open, offers to help, a shared umbrella during an unexpected rain shower. One employee whispered, "Feels like we're part of something bigger now, not just a company." And in that quiet unity, the dealership began to feel less like a workplace and more like a community. That evening, after the last car left, Stephen invited Lily to sit with him in the empty showroom, a space usually filled with engines and chatter. The conversation wasn't about sales targets or market shares. It was about values, leadership, and how true power lies in humility. Stephen spoke of his own failures and lessons learned, moments when pride had blinded him and nearly cost everything. Lily listened, surprised at how much she could relate to a man she'd once dismissed as an outsider. Stephen encouraged Lily to see the dealership as more than a business, as a chance to build trust and change lives. Lily admitted her fear, losing control, being seen as weak. Stephen reassured her that real strength was in vulnerability. The night grew quiet as the two, once strangers, found common ground in their shared humanity. Lily realized this was the mentorship she never asked for, but needed more than she knew. As they stood to leave, Lily felt lighter, as if a new chapter in her life was unfolding. Outside, the stars shone gently, a silent witness to the slow transformation inside. Weeks later, the dealership hosted its first community event, a gesture that surprised both staff and neighbors alike. Tables overflowed with donations, clothes, toys, food. Local families came in curiosity, leaving with gratitude and smiles. Stephen moved through the crowd quietly, shaking hands and listening to stories about hopes and hardships. Lily watched her team interact differently, no longer salespeople, but helpers, listeners, and friends. The event wasn't about publicity. It was about connection. Real, messy, beautiful human connection. Children ran laughing between tents, their joy echoing through the parking lot like music. One mother hugged a salesperson, whispering thanks for kindness shown long ago during a car repair. The dealership, once a place of transactions, had become a hub of healing and hope. Stephen smiled softly, knowing the real value of what they were building wasn't on the balance sheet. This project was the heart of their new mission, to sell more than cars, to sell second chances. Alone in her office, Lily reflected on the whirlwind of changes, not just around her, but inside her. The pride that once felt like armor now softened into something warmer, a cautious hope. She flipped open the photo on her desk, her team smiling genuinely, a reminder of why she had fought change so hard. She thought about the first moment. She'd kicked Stephen out, the shock when the man returned as owner. That memory no longer stung with embarrassment, but fueled her resolve to be better. Lily realized that leadership wasn't about power, it was about service. She began jotting down ideas for new employee workshops focused on respect, empathy, and teamwork. Outside, the rain tapped gently on the glass, a soothing rhythm that matched her steady heartbeat. For the first time, Lily wasn't afraid of what the future held. She was ready. A family walked out of the dealership clutching keys to their first new car, a moment of joy and accomplishment. Lily handed over the keys personally, her smile genuine and her voice warm, congratulating them on the milestone. Stephen observed from a distance, satisfied to see the human side of business flourishing. The family's children ran around excitedly, their laughter weaving into the fabric of the day. Lily's team celebrated quietly in the background, sharing the joy of a small but meaningful success. This wasn't just a sale. It was a story of trust earned and dreams realized. The dealership had become a place where relationships mattered more than numbers. Stephen knew there would be challenges ahead, but moments like this made it all worthwhile. The journey was far from over, but the path was clearer now, paved with compassion and respect. And for the first time in a long time, everyone felt hopeful. Just as hope settled in, a storm hit. The internet lit up with angry reviews from a rival's smear campaign. The staff gathered, worried whispers filling the room like a rising tide. Stephen stepped forward, calm as ever, reminding everyone that character shines brightest in adversity. Lily took a deep breath, rallying her team with newfound confidence. Together, they crafted honest responses, sharing real stories behind every glowing review. The community noticed the authenticity, pushing back against lies with their own voices. The challenge tested their unity and resolve, but it did not break them. Instead, it deepened their bond and strengthened their commitment to transparency. Stephen watched quietly, proud of the resilience they had built. This was more than a business now. It was a family standing firm in the storm that a well-dressed woman arrived unexpectedly, a major investor interested in the dealership's fresh approach. Stephen welcomed her with open hands and quiet confidence. She toured the dealership, observing the warm interactions between staff and customers. Her skepticism gave way to genuine surprise as she listened to their stories. The woman admitted she had expected a typical corporate operation, but found something rare. Lily shared the journey from turmoil to transformation, each step marked by human kindness. The visitor nodded thoughtfully, envisioning a new model for business success. She offered partnership, not as a handout, but as a shared mission. The team celebrated quietly. This was validation of their hard work and heart. This visit marked a new chapter, growth with integrity. The team gathered for a low-key celebration, their first real moment of joy together in months. There were no speeches, just quiet laughter and shared memories under twinkling lights. Stephen watched from the sidelines, satisfied to see genuine happiness bloom. Lily toasted softly to new beginnings, to mistakes learned from, and to a future built on respect. Staff exchanged stories of how the journey had changed them beyond the workplace. The feeling in the air was more than relief. It was hope made visible. Children played nearby, their carefree joy a reminder of what they were all working for. Stephen caught Lily's eye, nodding silently, a mutual understanding of how far they had come. The night held a promise. They would face the future together, no matter what. And in that promise, they found strength. Before dawn, Stephen found himself alone on the rooftop, bathed in golden morning light. He reflected on the journey, how a chance purchase had turned into a mission. The battles, the victories, the small moments of kindness, they all formed a mosaic of change. He thought of the staff, the families, the community that had embraced the dealership's new heart. The weight of responsibility settled gently, not as a burden, but as a privilege. Stephen knew there would be new challenges ahead, but he was ready. He breathed deeply, feeling the calm that comes from knowing you're exactly where you're meant to be. The city below stirred awake, full of possibilities waiting to be seized. In that quiet moment, Stephen smiled, content, hopeful, and determined. The journey was far from over, but the future was bright. Months later, the dealership unveiled its new identity, a symbol of transformation and hope. Stephen, Lily, and the staff stood united, their smiles reflecting the trust they had rebuilt. Customers arrived not just to buy cars, but to be part of something meaningful. The team celebrated milestones, each one a testament to hard work and heart. Local news covered the story, not as a business success, but as a community revival. Stephen's vision had become reality, a place where respect and kindness were currency. Lily had grown into a leader who led with empathy, inspiring others to follow. The dealership's legacy was no longer about cars, but about people and second chances. Together, they had rewritten what success could mean in a world that often forgets compassion. And in their story, countless others found inspiration to change their own paths. What did you think of Steven Seagal's journey with the dealership and how it transformed everyone involved? We'd love to hear your thoughts on the whole story. And please let us know where you're watching from. As a polite call to action, Please consider subscribing to our channel, liking the video, and sharing it with others to spread these inspiring stories.